Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Patterns that keep us playing small. It's Energy Audit Thursday. Patterns that keep us playing small, you guys. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Patterns that keep us small. Let's talk about it. Good morning. Listen, this lesson was born from watching brilliant, called, and capable people, myself included, play small. Not because we don't know our purpose, but because we've been running on autopilot, right? Patterns shaped in pain and fear, our survival slightly sabotaged um, our survival slightly sabotaged because of our misalignment, right? So today's session is really about awareness, you guys, not judgment. Okay, it's about awareness, not judgment, because once we see our patterns, okay, we can shift, right? We can shift the path, all right? I do need to give the disclaimer before we start. Awareness is powerful, you guys. I say that we have to become aware. If we want to change anything in our life, we have to become self-aware of the thing that we want to change. All right. But transformation requires intention. Okay. Awareness is powerful, but transformation, you guys, requires intention. So this session is meant to help you recognize the patterns draining your energy and your disrupting your alignment. But if you're ready to break free, you need consistent support, structure, and space to walk out, right? To walk out this new life, this new experience, all right? And that's what Project Life is for, okay? So good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. Are you guys ready to take our deep breath? Let's take our deep breath. I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in again, feeling our feet on the floor, you guys. Just scanning our body, making sure that we're present. We've already done what we wanted to do this morning. Got up, washed our face, took care of our personal body, our personal life, right? We're coming together at this time as a community, right? To get this bite-sized recipe, this BYTES, this bite-sized lesson, right? And then we're going to go out with an intention, right? And really start walking out, right? This new experience, okay? All right, so it's Thursday. It's Thursday. We're taking our deep breath. We're scanning our body. So we're feeling our feet on the floor, our legs, right? Our thighs, our butt and the seats. All right, our torso, right? Our chest. Just breathing in and out, just getting very present, right? Again, if there's one thing that I want you to take away, it's just learning how to become present, right? Present and self-aware. Our necks, our arms, our hands, right? Our hands, right? Our faces, our lips, our nose, right? We're just going up the body, just getting very present, turning ourselves on. Why for this great conversation, all right? So I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons, you guys, with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little. Life Lessons is a part of the Project Life Initiative, right? Where we turn theory into practice, right? You're really not doing a lot of things wrong. There just could be some misalignment, some misinformation, right? And we're really just trying to put it in practice so we can identify what you need, right? What you need. Before we start, I'm going to ask that subscribe to the YouTube channel. Why? Because it's been, 7 weeks we're going on, right? That's a pretty lengthy time. So it's just going to subscribe, right, to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers by 2026. And then, because this conversation is going to be so awesome, make sure that you invite a friend to our Facebook community, right? So that they can also be a part of a community that's committed to elevating them. Okay. All right. So I want you to drop a word in the chat. And this is big. I want you to drop one word in the chat that really describes your energy level today. What is your energy level today? Are you running on full this morning? or are you on fumes, right? Drop a word in the chat. Let me know. What is your energy level this morning? Are you running on fumes? Or are you full this morning? I could say that I'm like at, that 3/4 mark, right? That 3/4 mark. And so hopefully working out today and doing other things will fill that up. Okay. And if you're running on fumes, let me know. What do you plan to do to fill yourself up? Good morning, Miss Jackie. Good morning, Miss Jackie. All right. Okay, so I want to show you. I want to talk to you about how this week is really shaping your life, you guys. Because this conversation or this month is all about shaping your life. Miss Jackie says she full. Okay, Miss Jackie. All right. So this month is all about shaping your life, you guys, and we are on peace. So that means we made it through self-awareness, through healing, through accountability, right? And now we're on purpose, right? The fourth thing that we need to really start to shape our life. So how has this week really done that, right? So on Monday, we talked about the stories you believe shape your life, shape the way you live, right? If these stories unpack the narratives that we inherited, stories of unworthiness, fears, delays, and duties. And these stories determine how we define our purpose, right? How we define our purpose and whether and whether we believe that we were worthy of it, right? So I helped you really write or rewrite this inner script, right? Or made you aware that this inner script may need to be rewritten, right? On Tuesday, on Tuesday show, we talked about the triggers, right, that activate when I call them that these triggers that activate when we go after our purpose, right? So this fear of failure, this rejection, this sense of being too much. Miss Jackie says she off and running. She off and running. Okay. These emotions, good morning, Miss Lorraine. These emotions are signs, not these triggers are not signs that we should quit, you guys. They are signs that we're entering, right? We're entering this new territory. All right. And so we highlighted that. And then on yesterday, we talked about these internal and external obstacles that really stall our momentum, right? This imposter syndrome, shame, fear, failure, right? And these beliefs that really, the belief that we need permission, right? And we helped to reframe that. And I sent an invitation, what, for you to grow. And today we're going to talk about these loops, right? Your loops that are sometimes louder than your logic. All right. Good morning, Miss Vanessa, Melissa. Okay, Miss Bates. Good morning. All right. So these loops that are sometimes louder than your logic. Okay. This invisible autopilot system, we're going to talk about how to remove that, right? Because here's the thing, you're not stuck because you don't want more. You're really stuck because your patterns aren't aligned, you guys, with your purpose. Okay. They're not really aligned with your purpose. So who this session is for? This session is for you if you've been feeling stuck, right? Even though you're working hard, if you're pouring out but feeling drained, if you're pouring out but feeling drained, and if you're consistently doing but not really feeling like you're having that forward movement that you're looking for, this is for you. All right. All right. So we're going to pull out those alignment workbooks. All right. These are our powerful quote. This is our powerful quote. Your patterns aren't bad. They're just outdated protective strategies, right? But you're not surviving anymore. You're ready to live. You're ready to live. All right. So your patterns aren't bad. They're just outdated protection strategies. But you're not surviving anymore, you guys. You're ready to live. That is one of the quotes. If you got the book, stop it now. You see, I have a lot of quotes in the book. All right. And if you want to get a copy of that, you can go to Amazon.com. Or you can go to my website at www.sheilalittle.com. All right. So today's focus, our daily story, we're going to talk about Tasha this morning. All right. So Tasha, she was this woman who consistently avoided launching her nonprofit despite having a plan. She spent years over preparing, researching, and asking for feedback, but she never acted, you guys. Her real block was this fear of visibility, right? A child, a childhood wound, a childhood friend told her if they a childhood wound was telling her if they see me they'll reject me. So that was a story that she carried. If they see me they'll reject me, right? So her pattern, this pattern of like over preparing and researching and doing all this feedback, was her sophisticated way of really not stepping out into the purpose, right? Because she really had this fear of visibility. All right. So her pattern of over preparation really masked, right, this fear of rejection. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause. I want you to think about what's one pattern that's been running your life silently, right? And how long have you been carrying it? And is it still serving you? Okay. And I want you to think about that. That's your top of the mind thought as we're going through today's session. Okay. What's the one pattern that's been running my life silently? Because I really do want you guys to know that we're looking for these big grand things, and it's not big and grand. It's these little things. You know, when I was preparing myself today, I'm always kind of in conversation with myself. And, you know, the reason why I even came up with the Stop and Now framework, because I feel like there is a lot of things that we need to stop doing. There's a lot of things that we need to stop doing. Okay. And we need to start becoming. If we stop doing certain things, the becoming part will become second nature, right? It's in us. It's already there. But because we're doing stuff, right? It's as if it's stopping this natural thing that's happening. Just like our hearts naturally beat, our lungs naturally do things, our skin naturally sheds, right? So we have a mechanism and a sophistication about us that is already putting in so much work for us. Okay. And but we have moved to more of and I'm saying this, the doer's mind. And so we're doing so much and we're not allowing the being part of us to be present. And that being part is all about being back in relationship with that. And so we have these patterns that really are getting in the way of this being really showing up and doing what it needs to do to really move us forward. All right. Or when it starts to do it, we have what? We have these blocks, we have these stories, we have these judgments, we have these fears that come up and truly, slow that momentum down, put it to the back and things like that. And that's the part that we're trying to stop. That's what we're stopping with each life lesson. That's what we're stopping in the labs, right? And then that's what we stop even further by teaching you a skill in that legacy membership, all right? Listen, patterns are invisible systems formed in our past. All right. But they're shaped in our present. All right. They were formed in our past, but they're continually to be shaped right now. Right. What we call normal is often just a familiar pain, you guys. What we call normal is just a familiar pain because we don't just lose time when we don't do something. We don't just lose time, we lose confidence, we lose our energy and alignment when our patterns lead us. When these patterns that was created from our past start to shape us today, it really it really stops our momentum. It makes us lose confidence in this moment. It ciphers our energy in this moment and alignment when we allow those patterns to lead us today. All right. People, purpose doesn't get blocked by life. It gets blocked by loops we've never questioned. It gets blocked by loops that we've never questioned, right? Because what's comfortable isn't always what's aligned for us. And saying it's an old loop, rob and staying in this old loop actually robs you of becoming the woman or man that you were designed to be. Okay? Listen, I want to say that again. What's comfortable isn't always what's aligned, right? What's aligned for you. I said this yesterday when I said, every morning I was getting up and I was putting this armor on and I was going out to fight and like defend these naysayers. And I had to shift that conversation to, no, I'm not going out to fight the naysayers. I'm going out for my divine calling, right? I'm going out, in a sense, being obedient to this calling that's within me, right? When I did that, that was uncomfortable, right? That was very uncomfortable in the beginning because now I have to focus on like the connections, the things that made me uncomfortable, the things that guess what? Shielding myself and putting the protection on and and blocking myself from the naysayers, that was comfortable, right? Because I didn't have to connect, I didn't have to communicate, I didn't have to put myself out there, right? But comfortable isn't always alignment. I needed those connections. I needed those supports, right? And you do too, right? We are an ecosystem, which means we are connected to one another. And sometimes this comfortableness that we're feeling is comfortable because it's what we know, not because it's what we're aligned for. Okay. So a client once told me, I didn't even realize my busyness was a pattern. It made me feel productive, but really I was hiding from myself, right? How many of us do that? We have so busy, so much on our schedule. We overfill our schedule. We, overcommit ourselves that we really don't have time for ourselves. And I have to have you question that. Like, is that because you're scared to make time for yourself? Right? Because now when I have the time to really work with me and sit with me, I got to feel this thing. And if that's the case, that's okay, right? That is perfectly okay. That is why, individuals like myself and so many other individuals are creating communities for you to step into so you don't have to do it alone. Okay. So you don't have to do it alone. Listen, 95% of our behaviors is driven by our subconscious mind. That means most patterns are on autopilot until we consciously disrupt them and bring them to the surface. That's like I was talking about yesterday. Sometimes we can have something in our mind, but when we say it out loud, it starts to shake, it starts to take form. Like, wait, is that really what I meant to say? Like, that didn't really sound right, or now I have to really like decipher this. I was working with a client yesterday and she's going through a situation in a relationship, and I would just ask her back like what she would say to me. So what you're saying, and I would paraphrase it. And I was paraphrasing exactly what she was saying, but her ears hearing it, she was like, yeah, well, I didn't see it like that. Oh, I didn't think it like that. And just those little awarenesses helped her to be like, yeah, and come to what? Herself again, right? Come to this place where she could manage this situation. All right. So what if your procrastination and your perfectionism really isn't a flaw, but it's a flag waving and saying, hey, I'm ready to be healed, right? What if this thing that we've been judging, procrastination and perfectionism, it isn't a flaw. It's just a flag waving and saying, hey, I'm ready to be healed, right? Would you be willing to listen to those behaviors differently? All right. All right. Put a heart in the chat if that made sense. Put a heart in the chat if that made sense. Or put a 1 in the chat if you will be willing to listen, right? So we know that in the stopping out framework, the P stands for patterns, right? Subconscious habits that play in the background of our life, you guys. If you're going to shape your life, you want to really audit these loops, right? So this is Energy Audit Thursday. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take an audit And that's me, just like an investigator. We're going to investigate some of these loops or some of these patterns, right? Because here's the thing, each loop is a silent sabotager of your purpose. All right. Each loop is a silent sabotager of your purpose. Listen, loops keep you in motion without momentum. You're busy, but you're not aligned. Loops steal your energy from the present and invest it into maintaining the old survival strategies, right? So loops is stealing your energy from right now that you can be using to change, right? To really, and it takes that energy and then invest it in this old survival pattern. It's keeping that old part of you alive, okay? Loops replace conscious intention with emotional reaction, right? When I'm stuck in this subconscious loop or this pattern, right? I'm not responding from my conscious intention, the thing I said I want to do, or my desires. I'm responding from my emotional reaction, because remember, the emotion is the thing that's triggering what? The behavior. The behavior, what? I've done it enough that I don't even know I'm falling into a pattern. And that's why we have to become self-aware. So instead of walking into purpose, you guys, you are circling around it. Let me say it again. Loops replace conscious intention with emotional reaction. So instead of walking in purpose, you're looping around it. All right. You're looping around it. All right. What does this look like? An example of this is like you were called to start a movement, but the perfectionism, right, created a delay. And then that delay created self-doubt, a self-doubt loop. And that process, right, this self-doubt loop. So you were called to start a movement, but the perfection, delay, and self-doubt loop has you tweaking for a logo, right? For 6 months instead of launching the vision that God gave you. How many of us business owners have been at that place where we're like, oh, I need the website, I need the logo, I need to know what font I'm gonna do, what color I'm gonna do, right? Because of this perfection, delay, and self-doubt loop, right? And we kind of get stuck in this pigeonhole or this loop for 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, right? Oh, I need a business plan. I need somebody to help me with my business plan. Instead of just launching a vision that God has given you, right? And let that come with it. But that would require what? One, for me to break this loop. And then two, for me to confront some of these feelings. And that's why I'm saying this next season of your life, you guys, we can't do it alone, right? We need trusted individuals. We need support, right? And we need a space for someone to really hold for us while we are discovering ourselves and reintroducing ourselves to ourselves. All right. All right. So let's talk about some of these loops, right? Because these loops aren't just behaviors, you guys. They are repetitive energy cycles that really pull you back into these familiar emotional states. Okay. They are repetitive energy cycles that pull you back into these familiar energy states. Good morning, Tiana. All right. So the overwork, burnout, shame loop. All right. What does this look like? You overwork to prove yourself, right? And then you get burnt out and then you feel guilty, right? The shame for really needing rest. All right. Then we have the avoidance, guilt, and inaction loop, right? So you avoid the task. You feel guilty about avoiding that task. Then you procrastinate more because of the weight that is growing, right? From the inaction, all right? And then the people pleasing, resentment, and isolation loop, right? So you're saying yes to everyone. Then you get resentful, right? And then you isolate to protect your peace. All right. These are loops, you guys, that we fall into. The perfectionism, delay, and self-doubt loop. Okay. You delay starting until it's perfect. Then you lose momentum. And then you question your ability. All right. That's the perfectionism, delay, and self-doubt loop. All right. These are energy traps, you guys. They look like productivity and protection, but they're actually keeping you small. All right. Once you name the loop, you can break it and interrupt it in just one step. All right. So an example of that, if you're in the avoidance, guilt, and inaction loop, right? Interrupting it you can interrupt this by forgiving yourself in real time, then taking that one micro action. Okay. So remember, this is you avoid a task, you feel guilty, then you procrastinate, and then this weight, right, comes on you. Well, we can interrupt that by just forgiving ourselves and giving ourselves compassion and then taking the action. All right. So I want you to ask yourself, what loop do you get caught in? All right. What loop do you get caught in? And what part can you do to really lovingly support yourself when you disrupt that? All right. Or I can say it like this. How can you lovingly disrupt that today? All right. So what loop do I want you to ask yourself, what loop do I get caught in? Right. And what part uh can I lovingly disrupt today? All right. Is it the overwork, burnout, shame loop? Is it the avoidance, guilt, inaction loop? Is it the people pleasing, resentment, isolation loop? Or is it the perfectionism, delay, and self doubt loop? Right. I see these all the time. Right. I see them all the time, but I want you to just silently raise your hand. And then what's one thing you can do? All right. How these loops really block our purpose. So let's be clear. These loops don't just slow you down, right? They really disconnect you from your calling, right? When you're stuck in avoidance, your purpose feels like a fantasy instead of a responsibility. All right. When you're stuck in avoidance, your purpose feels like a fantasy instead of a responsibility. When you're deep in perfectionism, your purpose feels like a project you will never launch. Okay. So when you're in perfectionism, you're looking at your purpose becomes this project that you need to complete. All right. That you really never launch. Right. When you're consistently people pleasing, you guys, your purpose gets sacrificed on the altar of others' comfort. Okay. So when you're people pleasing, now your purpose gets sacrificed, right, to make other people feel comfortable. All right. And when you're in this burnt out cycle, right, your purpose feels heavy instead of holy. Right. So when you burnt out, it's like, this is one more thing I got to do. This is one more thing I'm caught. Right. So it feels heavy instead of holy. Listen, purpose needs energy and purpose needs your presence. Okay. These loops though, they leak both. They leak quietly, they leak daily, and they leak destructively. All right. So these loops are, in a sense, they're siphoning your energy very slowly that you don't even know it. So if you've been falling out of alignment, I just want you to know you're not lazy. If you find yourself not aligned, you're not lazy and you're not lost. You might just be stuck in a loop. And this is how sophisticated the mind is. And I do even think that's why the Bible say two or more, right? Holding each other accountable, iron sharpening iron, right? Coming to your brother, right? If you have an issue, bring it to them, right? How you treat those around you, the least of you, is how you treat me. I really do think God is calling for this connection because we hold each other accountable, right? We hold each other accountable and we become reflections of each other, right? And if I know that, that's going to weigh on me enough where I'm going to either go seek help or I'm going to go ask you to seek help. But some of us, because we're in this loop, we isolate, right? We isolate, we feel the shame, we become very self-doubt, we self-doubt ourselves, and then we don't act. We just live in inaction. All right. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if I stop feeding the loop and start following the call? What would happen if I stop feeding the loop and start following the call? Okay. All right. Putting the two in the chat. Put a two in the chat if that makes sense, if you felt that section of today's lesson. All right. All right. So we're at our biblical wisdom. All right. Our biblical wisdom is Romans 12 and 2, you guys. Listen, do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. All right. So when I brought this to you guys a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the patterns of, we sometimes look at this verse of the patterns of the world outside of us, right? In this sense of, these political patterns and these behaviors of other people. And what I wanted a deeper call was like, no, do not be conformed to your patterns, to these old patterns, to these loops, right? That you're having. Do not be conformed to those patterns, because those patterns were what? Created by the world. They were created by what? Your system, your ecosystem, right? The environment that you grew up in when you were, 0 to 15 years old, 0 to 20, and even all up into today, right? So those patterns were, you were conformed, right? Or you built these behaviors to survive in those patterns. And this verse is really calling us to say, do not conform to these patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This verse is literally about patterns, our emotional patterns, our mental patterns, right? And in these societal conditions that really keep us small, people pleasing, and striving. You guys, listen, Paul isn't just warning against these external behaviors. He's calling us to challenge our default programming. Okay, he's calling to get us to really change our default programming, right? And some of that programming is from who? From our parents, from our grandparents, from our culture. Remember, things get passed down, right? So he's asking us to really change not these patterns in the outside world, but these patterns in the world. So these patterns in the world are our survival habits, right? Our limiting beliefs, our cultural conditions, right? And these trauma loops that we find ourselves in. Let me know if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Somebody put a 1 in the chat if you can still hear me. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Something else picked up. All right. I'm going to hope that you can hear me. Okay. So, this verse, so these patterns so the patterns of this world, right? Um, our survival habits, our limited beliefs. Thank you, Tiana. Our limited beliefs and our cultural conditions, right? In these trauma loops, right? So these are the patterns that this verse is really calling us. Thank you, Pep. Good morning. Right. So the renewing of our mind is exactly what we're doing right here in our life lessons, right? What Project Life was created for, right? What that growth membership and legacy membership was created for, right? For conscious reflection, right? For repatterning our beliefs, right? And for choosing alignment over autopilot. All right. You don't have to keep living by the old emotional blueprints that were handed to you. Okay. That were handed to you from your mama. That was handed to you from society. That was handed to you by an old boyfriend, by your first love, by your second love, by your baby daddy, by the employer that you looked up to, by the mentor that had your. You don't have to listen. Keep living by that emotional blueprint that was handed to you. You were never meant to stay stuck in the cycle of fear. You were never meant to stay stuck in a cycle of shame, or you were never meant to have a performance issue. All right. The real transformation starts when you gently start to update your stories, right? These stories that's running your life. All right. And how do you know? How do you know these stories that's running your life? Awareness. And how do you get awareness? Connection, right? Investing, really supporting yourself. Okay. All right. If that makes sense, put a 3 in the chat for me. All right. So then we have Isaiah 43:19, right? See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Right? I've brung this verse to you before, right? See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Right? This verse speaks to the invitation to shift, right? God isn't saying that he will do a new thing. He's not saying, I will do a new thing. The scripture said he is doing a new thing. He is already doing it. The question is whether you can recognize and respond. Remember, I talked about those brain stems that grow, right? Where we get the opportunity to learn information, we get the opportunity to change and grow. But when we get stuck in this is who I am, and oh, it's going to be so hard, and we let these stories, these very silent stories, very discreetly, make us feel like we don't have the time, to really learn, right? But God is doing a new thing in you all the time. He is creating a new way of being for you all the time. He is creating the opportunity for this transformation, for this mind renewing to happen all the time, right? The question is whether you can recognize and respond to it, right? In the context of a new thing, listen, breaking a pattern you've repeated for decades, that is what that could look like. A new thing could look like you breaking a pattern that you repeated for decades. Listen, speaking up when you're used to shrinking, right? An opportunity comes, and it may not look, and this is the thing I want you guys to see. It may not look like, the perfect opportunity, right? But just say that, maybe it's in the heat of a disagreement, or maybe you're thinking, if I say this, it's going to cost me everything, right? But the opportunity is there for you to speak up, right? Speak up when you're used to shrinking, okay? And then feeling peace instead of chaos, and letting yourself keep that peace, being okay with what you did, right? And when that guilt come up, softly and gently be his friend and say, I'm okay. I'm okay with what I did, right? Here's the barrier. Many people can't perceive the new because they're stuck in the old loops. Many of us can't even pursue the new thing that God said he's doing. Not that he will do, but he's doing it constantly, but we can't perceive it because what? We're caught up in the old loops, right? So that's why we have to get present. We have to become aware, right? And then we have to start to become our friend again, right? And really start to support ourselves. Listen, there's a new pattern rising in you. I want to ask you, can you feel it? Right? It's the one that doesn't rush and hide or hustle for love, right? You're not waiting for permission anymore. Your healing is already happening, you guys. You just have to slow down enough to recognize it. A part of the people who come here every day, every morning, it's happening. Just in your presence, just in you logging in and listening and engaging and pressing like. And each time, the more you engage, the more a new you is being experienced. The more you're like, oh, I can take on this. Why? Because God is doing a new thing in you. And like I said, God works through people, right? So I may bring the information, but you may go walk, go to work, and like before you know it, you like, man, she just talked about this morning, and here I am in a situation to what? Do this new thing. And how do I know I can do this new thing? Because God said he's doing a new thing in me all the time, right? So we catch these patterns, and that becomes the new way of being. And then, of course, there's the feeling that comes with that, a little bit of anxiety. I've talked to a couple of people who've made some great decisions, some great big shifts in their life, right, as a consequence of just the life lesson, right? And that feeling comes up, right, of I'm doing this, but I'm feeling stuck, but I do feel good doing it, and I'm like, this is it, right? This is that new thing, right? Because God do work through people, and he worked through us, and it's about really activating us, right? So these scriptures really perfectly align with today's lesson, because listen, God doesn't just want your obedience, you guys. He wants your awareness. All right. God isn't just something out there watching your loops, right? He's within us, right? Whispering, this isn't the end, right? I'm doing something new, even here, even right in this moment. This isn't the end. I'm not done with you, right? I'm not done with you. It's not over. I'm doing something new, Okay. Even right now, even in that feeling that you having, even in that doubt, even in that inaction, even I'm doing a new thing in you. All right. So what I want you to think about is what patterns in your life, are asking you to be renewed, right? What patterns in your life are asking to be renewed? And what new thing is trying to arise in you? Okay. What pattern in your life is asking to be renewed? And then what new thing is rising in you? All right. Right. And so now let's go to our integration, which is our transformational tool. So how do we integrate this life lesson into today? Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify one pattern that's draining your energy. All right. What's one pattern that's draining your energy? And then what's one belief, right? You want to journal about what's one belief that is connected to that pattern. All right. And then we're going to replace that with a micro action. And I want to really encourage these micro actions. You'll see me say over the next 24 hours, or just these small little tweaks. Because remember, I told you about the watch. The watch, we see two hands and they move it in sequence. But these small gears in the back is really what's making these two hands move sequentially. And so it's in these small shifts that we make, you guys, right? That alignment starts to happen. Okay. That alignment starts to happen. And these small shifts happen in different areas of our life. All right. This week, we just so happen to be talking about our purpose, right? In alignment with our purpose. But over the months, the goal is to really touch on every aspect of who we are. All right. So this shift can happen. Okay. So, and then that journal prompt would be, what would I shift if I no longer fed the patterns that was keeping me small? What would I shift? What would I shift if I no longer fed the patterns that kept me small? Just dream big. All right. So big that it's scary. What would I switch? All right. And then our affirmation, I am not bound by old patterns. Okay. I am safe. I am safe to expand. And I am free to rise. Okay. I am not bound by old patterns. I am safe to expand and free to rise. I just want to hear you say that out loud. Okay. Say it with me. I am not bound by old patterns. I am safe and I am free to rise. Okay. All right. And then our intention for today. Today I move with awareness. I will honor my energy by choosing aligned patterns that support my growth. Right. Okay. Today I move with awareness and I will honor my energy by choosing aligned paths to support my growth. And if you find that you don't have patterns that are aligned, you already know, then you could drop that, you can join a Project Life so we can start working on a blueprint to give you those patterns, right? Those new behaviors, that new way of looking into your life, right? Not as not as something that not as something you are today, but as a part of your story. And then we can start shifting those narratives and creating who you want to become, which is so impactful. All right. And then our bonus for today, audit your day, right? Write down 3 moments at the end of this day. Write down 3 moments where you followed a pattern, out of habit. Okay. Then write one way or one small way you could shift it tomorrow. All right. So just catch yourself today and gently notice it. And then like, okay, what could I have done different the next time? Right. Just a thought. All right. All right. Listen. If today's session really resonated with you and you're walking away with insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat. Let's really celebrate our growth together, you guys, because what we know for sure. Oh, before we do that, I want you to think about this. This is your call today. What truth did this reveal about how you've been moving? All right. So what truth did this session reveal about how you've been moving? What's one pattern that you're releasing this week? All right. That you can commit to. Right. And I want you to, after you do that, now go shape your life on purpose. Right. This is the charge. Go shape your life on purpose with power and in alignment, you guys, and in alignment. Listen, if this hit home, imagine what's possible. When you walk through these patterns weekly, right? So every week we're talking in the labs, we're talking about patterns, right? These patterns that we want to break. Okay. That's what Project Life was created for. We know that knowledge alone just can't change your life. Actions will. So that growth membership gives you a container. It gives you the structure. It gives you the accountability. But moreover, you guys, it gives you the safety. It gives you the language. It gives you the awareness, right, that you need to really grow, and shape your life. So Project Life again is where we turn theory into practice, where we build emotional muscle and discipline, and then where we stop feeling stuck and start really feeling supported, you guys. And you can join that for $47 a month. Okay. Remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you guys, you can have it in your life. I love you all. I love you all. Till later. Till later. We're going to talk about tomorrow's session is trusting the voice within. Listen, purpose over perfection. Tomorrow is Friday. We're wrapping up this week, you guys. We're wrapping up this week of purpose. We're wrapping up this week of purpose. I really do hope that this week has really helped you to redefine your relationship with purpose, to really help you see what purpose is differently, and hopefully just nudged you to do the thing that you needed to do or that you need to do to really align or start to align in your purposes. Because remember, we just don't have one purpose. And so tomorrow we're going to talk about trusting that voice within, right? Purpose over perfection, you guys. I love you. I love you. I will see you tomorrow, okay, for that life lesson. You have an amazing rest of your day. Till later.